Streaming live via the internet, welcome to ISP Radio, your weekly source for ISP-related news, events, and interviews with industry experts. If you deliver internet via fiber optic, fixed wireless, coax, or any other way, you're in the right place. And now a brief word from our sponsors. Link Technologies Incorporated provides the lowest priced Microtech products in North America, as well as Wade Towers, Mimosa, Cambium, Ubiquity, Nettonics, and a host of other products and services to be your one-stop shop for your ISP needs. Visit www.linktechs.net. That's linktechs.net for more information. TowerCoverage.com, providing online RF coverage maps with website integration. Stop rolling your trucks for every site survey and start doing installations. Visit www.towercoverage.com now. And now we'd like to present our hosts, Steve Grabiel and Dennis Burgess.
Welcome to another edition of ISP Radio. I'm your host, Steve Grabiel, and I'm broadcasting my part of the show from my office in Moriarty, New Mexico, and Dennis Burgess is producing and co-hosting the show from St. Louis. Dennis, are you there?
Yep, I am here. We are trying to keep everything going here.
I hear you. What's the weather been like out there? We've been really dry out here in New Mexico. Of course, it's the desert, but today the monsoon start, the weather lady says.
Ooh, fun. Yeah, we've had a couple storms. We kind of are getting into July now, so we definitely get hot weather. I think the high is going to be 95. Today's pretty low humidity, but we've had a couple days that you breathe in, spit back out because it's so humid. But other than that, it's it's been pretty dang hot for the most part. So we've had a couple storms. We actually had a storm a few weeks ago that Jim Patient posted a video on Wisp Talk that literally had a lightning come down and it circled back around and then went right back down. It did a loop-de-loop. It was actually kind of neat. But otherwise, the weather's holding. It's pretty dang hot though.
Yeah.
So
it was about 2 weeks ago, hot and miserable. Couldn't sleep at night. Had to put a fan on to keep cool, but it's finally cooled down here. Been out doing my wireless thing and doing some fiber installs, wrapping up that big project I started in October, and added about 25 new customers on the fiber, and they seem to be really pleased with that. Dennis, any news out there? I know that I signed up for and paid right at the last minute the lower cost on the Wispapalooza. Any news on Wispapalooza or anything out there on the FCC front?
Well, I mean, as far as the FCC, we do have a CBRS panel going on. I'd have to actually pull up the email. I'd actually have to find it. But there is one that WISPA is putting on. That is going to be with Claude, which is our new president, as well as Steve Coran. That actually is today at 2 p.m. Eastern. You can sign up online. Go to wispa.org for that. Of course, Wispapalooza 2018 registration is now open. It is definitely the best tiered pricing is gone. So if you have not registered by now, you should have. Otherwise, we are constantly booking new exhibitors. Looks like we're going to have a really great. I think it's almost 80% full already. This is the most exhibitors we've ever had because of the quantity of exhibitors. Last year, in a complete sellout of the exhibit hall, we actually had to change the exhibit hall to be more square, basically. Instead of having the rows at angles, we actually had to make more square of all the rows. That way we can fit more booths in. And they're selling out pretty quickly as well. There's pretty much all the big guys. Cambium's going to be there. Ubiquity, Streakway, Power Code, Link Technologies, Tower Coverage, pretty much all the big operators, Baycells, Visp, Millennium. I mean, there's tons and tons of them that will be there as well. And most of the big operators have already signed up, and you can actually see their positions on the Wispapalooza page as well. It's really good information. Actually, I've got a little video that I was going to do, but I kind of missed the window on that. But we can definitely do that before we head out. Really great stuff going on at Wispapalooza. The Agenda Committee, which I'm a member of, has put out 99% of the agenda. And if you go to the agenda on wispa.org, we do have at least the basics of what is going to go on every day, the trainings, all that kind of good stuff, when all that will occur. Our Master Monday sessions have been posted. Again, really, really good stuff on most of this. Just so you know, and I guess I'll promote it here. I try not to do self-promotion on ISP Radio, but I guess I will. Tower Coverage and Link Technologies will have a vendor spotlight that will be on, Wednesday at 9:15 a.m. Just after, Microsoft will be there. They will have a session, but we will have ours at 9:15, and we'll be talking about the new features of tower coverage, specifically the address list feature. We'll be soliciting feedback. That's one of the things that we always like to get is feedback. We do get some customers that they'll give us a call, or they'll post on Facebook. That's actually probably it's fine if you post on Facebook, but it doesn't really help us understand what the actual issue is. And we've had customers say, oh, well, I can't use your site. Well, why can't you use it? We need specifics. And what ended up happening in that particular instance was they said that they couldn't find the antenna files for Ubiquiti horn antennas. And I said, well, my recommendation is to use RF Elements horns because, one, they supply dot antenna files, and two, if your vendor can't supply that, then you really shouldn't be using that. I mean, that's kind of really basic information that you really should know. But I mean, that is a problem with some manufacturers, that they don't supply those types of things, and we can only do what we can. You know what I'm saying? So
right.
And like I said, it's a lot of times it's not something that we can actually fix, or it's not something that is something that we can actually do something about. But we do try very hard. We do have a support number. We do have a support email address. Give us a call. But we will be doing that vendor spotlight. It's about an hour long. We'll be covering some of the new features, and then we'll be opening up the floor to questions as well as comments, because that's really what we want. Is we want some, hey, here's how to make this better. Here's how to make this better. And we do have several new features that we're working on, as well as several other systems that we're working on simultaneously to improve tower coverage as well. So, again, that is Wednesday at 9:15, October 10th, at Wispapalooza. And Wispapalooza only starts in 88 days, so less than 3 months. You definitely need to book a room. The rooms at the Rio, I mean, I've stayed there every time we've had it, and I've had a nice room. Perfectly fine by me. Most of the time I go to bed about midnight, 1 a.m. and get up at 6 a.m., so I'm not in the room very much, if that makes sense.
Right.
So anyway, we got a new person, a new vendor on our show today.
Yeah, I'd like to talk about this product I saw at Wispapalooza last year. It looked very intriguing. And then I saw an email recently about a new product that they've come up with. It's company's Ignitenet. And on the show today, we have Chad Dewey. He's the vice president of product design, and he's their resident RF guru. Chad, are you there? Chad?
It says he is.
Hello, Chad.
Okay, he has to unmute. It does happen. And Chad, by the way, we lost your presentation as well, so you need to reshare your screen.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you guys hear me now?
Yep.
Yes, we can hear you.
Had to hit that unmute button.
Yeah. Well, in this case, it was a Bluetooth headset error.
Gotcha. I understand. Can you go ahead and share? I know you have a presentation for us.
Absolutely.
Yep. We'll get that.
Well, to start with, Chad, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, where you come from, and where you're at with Ignitenet and how it's going along with Ignitenet, and then we'll get into some of the cool stuff you guys have.
Yeah, absolutely. So I appreciate you guys having us on today. So I've been with Ignitenet since basically since it started, which like 2014. We kind of we jumped into kind of cloud managed Wi-Fi was what we started with, and in 2015 we jumped into the millimeter wave world with the Metrolink product. So we've been shipping point-to-point radio since 2015, and then point-to-multipoint since 2016. And we keep pushing and growing that technology space, and trying to get it to an enterprise level and make it usable for WISPs in rural areas, metro areas, and everywhere essentially. Before Ignite, I was with a company called Arc Wireless, and I was the main RF engineer at Arc Wireless. So we have some of our team came from Arc to launch this Ignitenet brand, and then we've kind of pulled in people from all different aspects of the WISP world to get where we are today.
Sounds good. A new entrance to the marketplace with a cool product. When I first saw you guys, I was looking at fiber switches, and I looked at you had a 24-port SFP that was really reasonably priced. And then, like I said, I saw recently that you guys are releasing a newer product. Go tell us about some of that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So, just a little bit more on the Ignitenet side. So, our parent company is Acton Technologies. They are an ODM based out in Taiwan. So they make kind of world-class hardware for several top-end brands, and occasionally they kind of spin off their own branded products. So EdgeCore, SMC Networks, Ignitenet, maybe some of these everybody has heard of or maybe not, but the nice part is like the EdgeCore switches are very, very powerful, well designed and well defined switches that have existed for a while. So we were able to leverage some of those and bring out, like you said, the 24-port fiber switch. We have a PoE switch, and we have lots of kind of space there to grow and partner with the EdgeCore side to bring WISP solutions out. And then, as I mentioned, we've got the Wi-Fi side, so indoor and outdoor cloud managed Wi-Fi. We've launched 3 new access points this year, all of them Wave 2 AC radios. So we've got large kind of 4x4 based Sunspot Wave 2. We've got a 2x2 Spark that's indoor and outdoor. And then we have a brand new one, the Spark Wave 2 Mini, which is like a $50 indoor only dual band access point. So it gives you a real kind of nice selection depending on who you're going to be targeting with managed Wi-Fi solutions to basically scale and get anybody a solution they need for managed Wi-Fi.
Gotcha.
And then obviously we've got the Metrolink. So I'll kind of go through the presentation here quick. Obviously you have...
We do need to get the presentation shared.
Oh, is it still not shared?
Yep.
There we go. Can you see that now?
Yep, we got it.
Okay, perfect. Secondary approval needed via Skype. So, obviously, the Metrolink, the core idea of it is the 60 gigahertz. And obviously, why are we doing 60 gigahertz? Traditional versus millimeter wave, gas powered versus electric. It's not really a fair race when you look at speed and availability. On the U.S. side, just to kind of catch everybody up, the bands that are free in the U.S. is 57 to 71 gigahertz. The 64 to 71 is brand new within like the last year. So we're working hard to open up that band, and hopefully this year we're going to start releasing some products that will support that new band. The really exciting part about that is that it's unlicensed and it'll match E-band distances for range capability. So it just really allows you to open up that the distance capabilities both on the point-to-point and point-to-multipoint side. And the core driver there is the oxygen loss. At channel 2, you're losing 15 dB per kilometer on oxygen. Channel 4, it's 9 dB per kilometer, and then channels 5 and 6, it's like 1 dB per kilometer. So that's where the distance variance comes from. So obviously, 57 to 71 gigahertz, you've got 14 gigahertz of noise-free spectrum. It was 7 gigahertz, now it's all the way up to the 14 gigahertz. And then what's obviously really nice about it is the interference possibility. So on channels 1 through 3, 1 through 4, that oxygen kills the propagation of the signal. So at 2.5 kilometers, 3 kilometers, the signal's dead. So, if you've got a competitor in the area, if you've got, another operator, or if you got your own system, it literally allows you to build a highly dense network and not self-interfere and not interfere with competitors. So again, just kind of more visuals of, why does 60 gigahertz allow for the high, or for the interference free? And it just has to do with that propagation distance of the 60 gigahertz. One area that we've kind of seen it's going to be important for operators is you look at your towers and the critical infrastructure that you have now and getting 60 gigahertz where you need it, right? Which generally off on the tower, it's not overly usable outside of a point-to-point space because the distances are not far enough to get to your end customer. So what we've been working hard on is using like Trill to basically be kind of an add-on to OSPF and some other tools that you guys are using today to open up, redundancy and getting off of that tower and not risking the resiliency of your network as you get off of those towers and, leverage streetlights, hub homes, whatever it may be, giving you guys multiple paths through neighborhoods to deliver high bandwidth connections. We have today shipping, we have 3 access points shipping. We have 220 degree models, which is our 2.5 gig beamforming sector. And then we have a 1 gigabit per second model, which is the Metrolink LW. That's like the interface speed. So if you're using 2.5 gig Ethernet or 1 gig Ethernet, and then you have full duplex 1 gig. So we look at 2 gigabit, and you really actually get about 3 gigabit per second on the Metrolink 2.5 gig beamforming sector. And then we've got the 10 gig Omni, which is our brand new product, I think, Steve, that you were asking about. So this has a 10 gig SFP built into it with a 1 gig Ethernet PoE, and then there's also a DC feed on it. This one has 320 degree sectors built into it. Each one of them can be uniquely configured. And why does this help? So it allows you to increase your client counts. On each 120 degree sector, we currently support 8, and that's about to jump up to 12 clients per sector in the next 2.2 firmware release. So the Omni currently supports 24. That'll jump up to 36. And as we continue to improve that client count, we expect to be able to get 96 clients onto one Omni by the end of the year. The other nice part about it is if you're looking at 60 gigahertz extensions or multi-hop modes, in 2.2 you'll actually be able to configure one of those radios as a client, so you can actually daisy chain Omnis down the street, house to house, whatever it may be. And and essentially just open up, high bandwidth 60 gig connections throughout, and then offloading on 60 gigahertz on those redundant, or on those 2 additional sectors, and then you have the 5 gig for fixed access, or you have 2.4 and 5 gig for kind of high quality Wi-Fi that you're not relying on 5 gig to backhaul. Do you guys have any questions on the access points specifically, or?
The only question I got on the chat was they had mentioned about some type of promo that's currently happening, and I'm sure our listeners would like to know about that, but we can definitely cover that later if necessary.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. And I guess the next page here will actually help quite a bit with that, which is the client options. So this, specifically if you're going to look at the Omni as your access point, your client options are an additional Omni, the Metrolink LW, the Metrolink 19, the 35 centimeter, and then the 5 gigahertz ML5. So we have obviously a couple different speed capabilities with these 2 products specifically. We have the 1 gigabit and we have the 2.5 gigabit per second models, which it's the same 60 gig system, just a different CPU behind it, opening up the additional speeds. These 2 models, the 1 gigabit is what we just launched the new promo on today, or yesterday rather. These 2 models are the ones that will start shipping for $199 if you order with a bracket, and then $179 if you order without a bracket. So that Dash A model that we announced is ships without a bracket, so that's why the lower price point there.
And those brackets are the precise for precision alignment, correct?
So the bracket that shipped with our first gen Metrolinks is what we call the standard bracket, which, love it or hate it, it's been widely discussed as far as what people think of it. So we're taking the brackets out of all of our point-to-point products and essentially giving you the option and not making you forced to pay for the standard bracket. So you would pay the $179 for the product, and then you can choose which bracket you want, whether it be the long-range high precision or the standard bracket.
How difficult are these to point and to create a link?
We've come a long way, and actually I think it's actually quite easy to get. For instance, we've done 2.5 kilometer links down in Phoenix, and we spend more time getting the pole, especially when you're talking about kind of non-pens and J-arms. We spend more time getting those fixed and sturdy than we do actually doing the alignment. So a 35 to an Omni, generally I'll see about 20 minutes worth of kind of aiming and optimizing. And then on 2.5 kilometer links, again, obviously it depends on your experience with millimeter wave too, but I've seen the 2.5 kilometer links come on as quick as an hour.
Mm-hmm. Wow. And so with the Omni, you could do what do they call them? Pico sites, like to set them up on a power pole and go down the road with these every tenth of a mile.
Yeah, absolutely. So picocell, microcell, micropop, whatever word you want to do it is just that. And the really nice part about the platform too is, if you want to put up one Omni and maximize your client counts, you can run the Omni on 3 unique channels. Let's say channels 1, 2, 3, and then you can run a point-to-point network on top of that on the same infrastructure and not interfere. So you can run all your point-to-point links on channel 4, and then all of your point-to-multipoint on channels 1, 2, and 3. So it kind of makes it easy to standardize and not not lose any of that precious bandwidth as you build out your network.
Right.
So, and that's where obviously, so we've built the Trill switch, or the mesh link is the name for it, but essentially we're using shortest path bridging to give you options to build the rings with those point-to-point networks, and then offload it onto the Omni to distribute point to multi-point.
Uh-huh. Have you got any deployments with this the new Omni that are really rocking?
Yeah, absolutely. So we can. I've got a few case studies down below, which we'll get to here. The other nice part too. So this is the Omni, kind of talking about the distances. So 150, 700, and 400 meters are kind of your 60 gigahertz connection rates, connection distances, and then 2 kilometers on 5 gigahertz. The other really nice part, which we're set to announce, is on our 120 degree base stations, we're going to give you the option of reducing that coverage, so you can go from 120 to 90, 60, 30, or 10 degree coverage, and with that you're going to get extended range. So for instance, with a 60 degree beam on talking to a 1 foot client, or the Metrolink 35 centimeter, we can get 1.2 kilometer, 1 gigabit at 1.2 kilometers now.
With a tighter beam.
With a tighter beam, correct.
Now, on this Metrolink, I think people are. This is just a question that we got from here. Basically, it is a single product that has an SFP plus cage, has an Ethernet, and has DCN. Can it be powered with PoE or does it require DCN?
It can be powered with either one or both. So you can build redundant power in if you'd like.
Gotcha. And then there's a switch built in so that basically you can power everything via that one Ethernet, and it powers all 3 radios.
Correct. Yep. It's a single IP address that you'll log into, and then it gives you 5 interfaces essentially to configure your 360 gig, your 2.4 gig, and your 5 gig.
Okay, so this is literally but does it have a single CPU or does it have 3 CPUs?
It's a single CPU.
Okay, so it is even though it has 3 sectors or 3 radios in it, it actually has a single CPU that is much greater, I'm assuming, performance-wise, than the standardized sector.
Correct. Yeah, it's a highly beefed up CPU to handle the 3 unique 60 gig radios, and then kind of the 4x4 5 gig and 2.4 that's built in.
Gotcha. I was just curious because we've seen manufacturers create the sectorized Omnis per se, and sometimes they'll include a switch, sometimes they'll include 3 Ethernet ports. Like, we have Ubiquity, they have that big old monstrous sectoral antenna that is 3 sectors, but you actually have to have 3 radios, and you actually have to have 3 Ethernets to power each radio on top of that. So this is a completely new product. It is actually 3 sectors, but it actually has 3 radio cards or 3 radios in it, and it all goes back to your single 10 gig SFP.
Correct. Yep. And so there's no add-ons you have to buy. There's no license fees. It's just it's one device, one login, and you've got 5 interfaces to kind of do with as you please.
Gotcha. All right. Yep. Not a problem. Just curious, making sure how all that works.
Yeah.
So this product is able to do client radios, and you guys have the client radios for this Omni and the 5 gig and 2.4 or can multiple vendors be used?
So both. We do have our own 5 gigahertz product, which is the Metrolink 5-LW.
Okay.
We don't have any fixed access clients for 2.4 gig. It's the 2.4 has kind of been more targeted for just general access, whether it's installer or consumer electronics. But it is an 802.11 radio, so you can connect other vendors to it. Both on the 2.4 and the 5 gig.
Wow.
You have the ability to create 8 SSIDs on each of those radios. Each one you can assign a unique VLAN to. So you can do, so there's a lot of options you have of playing with, how you do those, whether it's an installer SSID, local access, paying customers, or fixed access and wanting to do, if you wanted to upgrade your tower site and slowly move people off of, let's say, Mimosa, you could actually move those Mimosa clients in an interop mode to the Omni, and then as you have time, then you can upgrade the clients or as they pay for upgrades. So it allows for smoother transitions as you upgrade your base stations.
Right, that's something good to think about. You guys, sounds like you guys thought about this pretty hard.
Well, we did get I do have a product suggestion, and that is, when we look at poles, we look at power requirements, all that kind of good stuff. It'd be really nice if we had a second 10 gig port on these units so that you can bring 10 gig into it and then continue it out and as you continue going down the street. Because right now we would have to install a switch.
Yeah, daisy chain your Metrolinks.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, then obviously, as everybody's seen on the Wisp world, not to throw anybody out, but Mike Hammond has been pushing us for that for quite some time. So it's certainly something we're looking hard at. But both on the MeshLink side, having multiple 10 gig ports, and then how do we build in multiple 10 gig ports onto our infrastructure products?
Yeah, no big deal.
No, but I absolutely understand the need for it. So it's it's a real. You only have so much space on these towers, right? Or whether street lights. So the cities and whatnot, the more devices you have, either the more rent you're going to pay, or the more cosmetic concerns that are going to come up. So
speaking of that, what is the actual size of this product? I mean, do you have that in a slide coming down?
I don't. It's about, let's say, 18 inches by 8 inches is kind of the overall profile. Right,
not very large at all. Gotcha.
Yeah, it's when you first see it, it's pretty big, but once you get it actually installed, it's not significantly sized.
Yeah, and keep in mind, as far as our users, I mean, we get a lot of people that come on to ISP radio and they are very inexperienced with RF. The 60 gigahertz, you have so much spectrum. Not only that, you have so much clean spectrum because it doesn't propagate very far. And furthermore, there's plenty of channels. And whenever I say there's plenty of channels, it's not like 2.4 gigahertz where you have channels that overlap. You actually have individual, clearly addressable channels. But the big downside is trees. I mean, you're not going to go through a tree with 60 gigahertz for the most part. So it does need clear line of sight in those particular instances. But where those clear line of sights that you can get connectivity, it is extremely high performance. I got another question for you, and that is relating to other 60 gigahertz products. Specifically, in this particular instance, is Microtech. But does your protocol or does your unit communicate at a very specific protocol? Is it your protocol, or can other devices hook up to it?
Yeah, so circle back. So yeah, the 60 gigahertz does not propagate through trees, and that's actually one nice part about building in that 5 gig radio is, if you have one customer just on the other side of some trees, that you've got the distance for 60 gigahertz, but you don't have line of sight. That 5 gigahertz that's built in actually helps with that quite a bit. It still may be too thick, so we can't guarantee that 5 will work depending on how many trees are there, but that 5 gig being there helps quite a bit.
Now, is that part of are you using Trill, or are you using some type of mesh topology to integrate the 5 gigahertz with the 60 gigahertz, or do you primarily operate on 60 gigahertz? Unless 60 gigahertz fails, then it falls back to 5 gigahertz. Yeah.
So if you're looking at a Metrolink device, so we have the 5 gig failover built in, so there's no meshing there. The 60 gigahertz and the 5 gigahertz are bonded together. So when the 60 goes down, it's about 8 milliseconds, and then the 5 gig will pick up and start passing traffic on the 5 gig. So anyways, there's no action needed by the end user to make it switch over to 5. The radio will take care of that all by itself. It's all automated. So there's no meshing per se with that. It's just simply redundancy built into each radio.
Okay. And I guess, can you go back to the 60 gigahertz? Will it work with other vendors?
Yeah. So the 60 gigahertz side, what we are running is proprietary. All of our, us, Microtik, whoever maybe, we're all running an 802.11 base, but then each one is proprietary to itself. And the 802.11 standard keeps improving, and everybody's kind of working together on the chipset level. But to really, maximize your speeds and everything, it's not. There's no real interop mode that can really give you the speeds that you need. So as of right now, we don't work with any other vendors.
Yeah, not a problem. Just curious.
Yeah, well, and it's obviously part of. When you look at, residential installs, or even, low-end kind of business installs where you're not charging a high monthly fee as an operator, we knew that $500 was not a client cost that would work. And so we've, launched a special to get, sub $200 and, really open up, more business avenues for the WISP to be able to attack that.
Gotcha.
So we know that the Omni has multi-band in it, and you talked about, that really cool feature where the 60 gig, if a rainstorm comes through, it swaps over to the 5 gig. Do any of the client radios have that 5 gig, 60 gig built in, or do you have to put up 2 radios at the client's house or at the client's business?
All of our Metrolink radios are built with both radios, so you will always have that 5 gig backup option if you want it. If your 5 gig spectrum is too noisy and you can't spare the spectrum, you can always turn that off as well and run on pure 60.
Way cool.
So all that $199 cost or the $179 cost includes that 5 gig radio built in, and it's no extra antennas or anything. Everything is built all into one device.
Mm-hmm.
We got another question on our chat, and basically, can you give us can the Omnis be daisy chained wirelessly, i.e. no backhaul required? And then the next question is using the 5 gigahertz radio in the Omni.
Can it be are they asking, can it be backhauled on the 5 gigahertz?
I'm assuming that's what they're asking.
Okay, so it can't. Right now, the 5 gigahertz is only access point. In 2.2 firmware release that we have coming up, we're starting to alpha test it now. You can daisy chain on 60 gigahertz, so that there'd be no backhaul required.
But that will turn off one of the access points in 60 gigahertz?
Correct. So the daisy chain model would have one client radio, and then two access point radios.
And then does the sectoral antennas change to 120s, or are you still at the? I'm sorry. Do they change to 180s, or do they still at 120?
They're still at 120.
Okay.
So you would lose 120 degree coverage from the daisy chained unit, but if you're doing this, any client that would be within that range can most likely talk to the previous Omni as well.
Gotcha.
So,
not a problem.
So could you build point-to-points with your client radios, or they're just stations only?
No, they can work either or. So with all of the client options, you can run those, as we kind of talked about, you could run those as point-to-points on a unique channel and maximize your client counts on the Omni.
Okay.
So yeah, that absolutely is possible. And really that's where we started, was the point-to-point side. So the Metrolink 35 and the 19 were our first products to market, on the point-to-point side, and we've simply added the point-to-multipoint capability to those as to make them client devices.
Right. Saw something on the price of the Metrolink. Can you go into a little bit on what the prices are for that Omni?
Yeah, the MSRP on the Omni is $999. The Metrolink LW, I believe the MSRP is $299. The Metrolink LW is a little bit different of a client than, let's say, the 6035 and the 6019. So the LW actually has the 5 gig and it has 2.4 built into it. So if you are looking at, doing a metro area Wi-Fi deployment, or if you want to offer some Wi-Fi for customers through the same devices, the LW can backhaul on 60 to the Omni, and then you have 5 gig for either redundant backup, or you can do 5 gig for access and 2.4 gig for access, all within that device.
Huh.
And then there's a couple different options. We have an omnidirectional 5 gig built in, and then we have a directional 5 gig built in. Primarily, how do you want to use the 5 gig, whether it's backup or for access? The Metrolink 35 and the 19s, these are the ones we just announced. So it's $199 for the units that ship with a bracket, and $179 when they ship without a bracket. The Metrolink 2.5 gig, I believe it's roughly like $549, or roughly thereabout, $599 maybe for the 35 centimeter. And then the Metrolink 5 LW, I believe, is roughly $130 MSRP. And again, the Metrolink 5 LW also has 2.4 built in as well for access.
Cool.
So, and then to your point earlier, so all the Metrolink 2.5 gig and the 1 gig 35 and 19, they can be used for point-to-point.
And with that fail over to 5 gig, right?
Correct. Yep.
Should a storm come through, that is just way cool.
And obviously, how usable are these distances in your given area? We have some online tools through our cloud account. You can create a free account and use them. It's called LinkPath. So you can enter the rain region that you're in and the reliability that you want with all of these connections, point-to-point and point-to-multipoint. And it kind of guides you on, okay, if you want to do 2 gigabit per second, full aggregate throughput, 1 gigabit per second, these are the distances that we recommend you use. And you'll see, if you run 5 nines, reliability, those distances shorten up. And if you run 3 nines, then, they extend quite a bit. So
I have a question about your Metrolink 2.5 gig, 60 gigahertz.
Okay.
Product. It comes with a SFP port, but not SFP plus. But then it comes with a 2.5 gigabit Ethernet port.
Correct.
Want to explain that one to me?
Yeah. So the 2.5 gigabit Ethernet. So it's the new N-base-T protocol.
Okay.
It allows, so you can use existing Cat5e cable that you have on all of your towers, and with the either an upgraded switch or an SFP plus to N-base-T adapter, you can reuse that Cat5e and get PoE and 2.5 gigabit Ethernet.
Is that a product you guys sell?
We don't make an SFP plus to N-base-T adapter. Aquantia makes one that is it's very reliable. I know MikroTik just launched a new one. So we don't make any of those ourselves. We have the Trill switch has an N-base-T port built in, but we don't have any switches outside of that have the N-base-T. So, and then it does have the 1 gig SFP built in, and we are, we're obviously working to future models, that SFP limit, the 1 gig doesn't work for most operators. If they're going to go SFP, they want to go SFP plus. So we're working on that one.
Gotcha. So this kind of goes back, just for everybody's reference. When we look at Microtech, Microtech just announced, they have not released the product, but they have released a 10 gigabit copper switch, and that unit would be the one that you're referring to get the 2.5 base T or N base T. Would that be correct?
So they now make. Let's see if I have one laying right over here. I think it's the STAS RJ10, I believe. Yeah. It's one of their SFP modules. So that's the one that'll do 10 gig SFP to 10, 5, 2.5, 1 and 100 meg copper connections.
Yeah. It's a 10 gigabit copper SFP.
Correct.
Which most people, they're like, 10 gigabit via copper, how does that work? Well, it works, just not very long range, etc.
Yeah, you're not going to go 300 feet with 10 gig.
Yeah.
No, so on and we released a report. I'm happy to share it with you guys. We tested the Microtech with our radios. I believe we did 100 meters with and we were able to do the full 2.5 gigabit per second without any issue. I believe to get up to 10 gig, I think is it 50 meters on Cat 6?
Yeah, it's very, very, very short. It's very short. I don't remember what the spec is. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that's the big thing, is you're not going to get a huge range, but you are going to get better range using 2.5 gigahertz or 2.5 gigabit data rate. It's basically the same thing as your auto negotiation. You got 10, 100, 1000. But in the product specs for the RJ10, again, now you have 10 gigabit, and they have both a 2.5 gig negotiation rate and a 5 gigahertz negotiation rate, as well as 10.
Okay.
Yeah, it's basically the same thing. It's just up to 10 gigabit. So, any which rate, what else we got on your slide deck?
So the next product that we're getting pretty close to announce, we're actually really excited about. Obviously, as the WISP operator, how do you give your clients better Wi-Fi in their houses, whether it's a large house, that has too big a coverage for one Wi-Fi router. Obviously, you can go do the Google solutions or whatever that do the kind of the meshing, which are great solutions. They're just a little bit price point, and the management part becomes a little bit difficult. So what we are working on is opening up G.hn, which is a coaxial based protocol that can do 1.6 gigabit per second over a coax network, and it's point to multi-point. So what we're doing is we're building an indoor and an outdoor version. So if you're going to do service to a home, you could have your client radio up on the roof, which will feed via Ethernet down to kind of an outdoor demarcation unit. That will then plug into the existing coax network on the house, and you can access that entire network that is built in and go point to multi-point and put in as many stations as you want it. I believe it's up to 16 stations, which would be overkill for any house. But what that does is it allows you kind of a non-wirelessly bridged connection to all of your indoor access points. And I'm kind of talking residential case here, but obviously, you have an MDU play, office play, whatever it may be. It gives you a lot of options to deploy kind of a meshed Wi-Fi without meshing on any wireless interface.
So the red lines are the in homes interiors coax system, correct?
Correct.
Gotcha.
The other really cool part about it is you can actually do power over the coax. So all of these internal internal devices, you can power inside. It'll put DC onto the coax and go back and feed not only your outdoor box, but it'll then do power out to power your CPE device. So if Johnny up in his room unplugs his box, there's no risk to it because mom and dad or the TV still have all of their boxes plugged in. So it provides you with a reliable power connection, and then it just obviously you've got the multiple connections built in as well. I think there's a lot of really cool use cases for this, not only in not only in the home and the MDU space, but we've got an operator down in Atlanta. They are actually going to be, because of the distances and the tree buildup, they are going to be buying a vibratory plow and running RG11 between multiple houses. And they'll actually run that RG11 to a single pole that has line of sight to the tower. So on that tower, they'll have a Metrolink device, the G.HN outdoor box, and then that entire system will be powered by, the 4-8, however many clients they connect. And it works up to 1,000 feet on RJ11.
Yeah, that's an interesting application.
So I got a couple more questions here, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
One, they asked how many devices can be placed on the coax. I think you said that was 16. Is that correct?
I believe it's 16. The spec may even be 32. I can check on that, and I'm happy to kind of get you guys to follow up. But I believe 16 is kind of the number that we've targeted.
Gotcha. So then my next question is, on your CPE side, so this kind of goes back to the 60 gigahertz, radios, and it doesn't matter if it's 60 gigahertz or 5 gigahertz, etc. But on like the Metrolink 60, 19, 60, 35, on those products, are those products set up as bridges only?
So currently, the client devices are all layer 2. We're working to basically open up some unique VLAN interfaces, or uniquely configurable VLAN. So you can actually assign a unique VLAN just to the Ethernet port to do kind of a clean demarc for a customer.
Okay, but you guys have no plans on building a router or a device that does NAT or anything like that into your CPEs.
We're looking hard at it, and what's the right avenue for that. For right now, we see a lot more of having a VLAN implementation being more useful than than actually a routed interface, but as that's what's being demanded, the most right now. If it needs, a NAT built into the client device, it certainly is possible.
Gotcha, not a problem. And are the management of all these devices, are these just V4?
So you've got multiple. You can it's SNMP 2C, I believe, is the latest version. If you want to plug it into your existing monitoring platform, we've got the web UI, and then we also offer our cloud. Our cloud allows you to manage and configure all of these devices, both the switches, the access points, the clients, and the Wi-Fi across all of them. So the cloud is $99 per year for unlimited number of devices. So it gives kind of new operators a great way to get up and monitoring their system as they look at, kind of either building their own in-house through an SNMP or, whatever they may decide to do. The cloud is an easy way to get monitoring today. And a lot of times once they start using it, they love it and they keep using it.
And what is the timeline for the coax device and price points?
I believe we're going to start shipping kind of beta devices in the next couple months.
So no price points yet either?
I don't have the exact price point, but as with all of our stuff, we try to be very very competitive.
There you go. Chad,
do you have a demo of your cloud-based network monitoring and stuff?
Sure. Let's see. Maybe I can switch to that. I'll finish up.
Okay.
So typical applications. So last mile access. I mean, really, like all of these typical use cases is, leveraging your existing fiber connections or tower connections, wherever it is, getting kind of hybrid fiber wireless or, hybrid tower last mile using 60 gigahertz to kind of, connect everybody that you need. Security, today's 4K cameras that you need for, a lot of the new metropolitan securities. Are you going to connect that on 5 gigahertz? Most likely not. Or, if you are, it's going to be short term, until interference steps in. So a lot of opportunities there for security, and then the high bandwidth that the 60 gigahertz provides. Again, fiber extensions, getting fiber, as all these operators know, right? Fiber can be across the street, and it may take 6 months or more to get that fiber across the street. So, being able to take the fiber that you have and leveraging existing fiber points and bring it where you ultimately need it. Wireless is going to do it faster and at a lower cost. Small cell backhaul, Wi-Fi backhaul. So again, this is a really good one of taking your fiber points and using the Omni and that LW product to extend Wi-Fi everywhere that you need, whether it be a campground, dense metro areas. There's obviously, everybody needs good Wi-Fi. So being able to backhaul Wi-Fi access points on 60 gigahertz allows you to deliver a better Wi-Fi experience because you're not losing that 5 gigahertz band due to kind of self-interference on backhauling. The real success stories. So Steve and I talked a little bit before the call. So this has been a good one that how do you bring 60 gigahertz to rural areas? So out in Nebraska, Vista Beam, they've been using Trill and the Omnis together. So they run channel 4 point-to-point links to multiple nodes, and then at each node they have an Omni to provide final coverage to all their customers.
Well, that kind of shows you the size of it. Not very big.
Yeah, no, it's not very big at all. The equipment box is actually bigger than everything else that you have existing there. And this box, they have an AC to DC converter, and potentially doing some more switching as they look at kind of delivering multiple connections via Ethernet. But and then from a coverage standpoint, these green circles are if you're using the Metrolink LW, and then the larger circles are if you're using the Metrolink 35 centimeter. So so they build the network for today and what they need, which is this business district. They can add on future links, extending that Trill network, and obviously bring service to new areas by adding new nodes. Urban internet access. So this is the city of Newark, putting up the Omni at their fiber pops, and then bridging the LW to bring basically high bandwidth Wi-Fi throughout the city. Temporary Wi-Fi for events or disaster recovery. So this is kind of a high dense network that they needed down in the Cayman Islands, or not the Cayman Islands, but rather the Florida Keys after the hurricanes came through last year. So they built two unique networks, one for for general access and one for management services. Keys, basically all of the Caribbean needed very quick rebuilds of internet after the hurricanes last year, and most of them were choosing 60 gigahertz to kind of rebuild with. Lower income neighborhoods, so getting into low income areas, high income areas, everybody needs better internet. So we've got cases in Albuquerque, Phoenix, Spain of using 60 gigahertz to open up better backhauls and to open up new point to multi-point opportunities for higher bandwidth. And this is a really cool one that we're working on right now. This is a school district that wants to bring internet service to 400 students, all within a dense area. So again, same kind of similar concept to what VistaBeam did. This is going to be, however, using point-to-point and then multi-hopping omnis together. They're going to build a core ring using Metrolink 2.5 gig to essentially kind of a redundant path using the shortest path bridging. And then off of those omnis, they'll do kind of multiple hops off of those to kind of fill in the corners without spending too much money on the infrastructure build. So each of these white dots are omnis, and then obviously all the students built in there with the yellow pen. So main kind of point here is just showing you how you can use this point to point and point to multi-point together to to really attack any opportunity that you have.
Right.
So I think that's all I have on the presentation side. If there's any questions, I'll take those now, and then if not, I'll jump into the kind of the cloud demo that you asked for, Steve.
Cool. Dennis, any other questions on the
No, we
chat?
pretty much covered everything.
Cool.
So, yeah.
Let's see.
One of the things that we kind of deal with out in the field is customer service when we buy this stuff and get it out there. Do you guys answer your phone and help out the people that buy the equipment, or is it all chat-based, or is it just email? How do you guys help us people out?
Yeah, so we have let's see. We have a direct support line with a direct support system, which is email based. So email in to support@ignitenet.com. We've got support people around the world that are checking that, and we're trying to get back to everybody within worst case like an hour of emailing in. So we're very active on Facebook and others. So I think just about anybody who is posted any issues on Wisp Talk or Wisp Picks, we're pretty quick to jump on and try to reach out and help.
Okay.
All right. So the way our cloud is set up is you have your one main kind of cloud account that can be owned by the operator, and then within that cloud you can have multiple sites. So that site can be your entire backhaul network. That site can be a single customer. It can be an MDU, however you choose to design it. So in this particular case, I'll go to and we'll go to my home Wi-Fi here, or my home network. So I've got links up in Omaha, and then I've got some family using stuff out in Colorado. So within this, you can go through and basically get kind of a live window of all of your devices. I've got a Sunspot Wave 2 Wi-Fi, a Metrolink LW, an Omni, and then obviously different Wi-Fi. So you can see the status, so the device health, online, offline, blocked, and then configuration status, and then configuration inherent policy. Which we can talk more about that. It's probably not best to get into all these different nuances within the show. I know we're probably running up to our time here, but essentially the cloud is very adaptable to, do you want to run a site that manages multiple access points, Wi-Fi access points, and you can configure them all to run the same SSID and core settings to where if you need a new access point, the cloud will take care of configuring it all for you. Or do you want to run a site that is, a backhaul and everything is going to be unique, and you don't want the cloud to touch it, only just monitor it and do configurations as needed per device. And then obviously you have all of your alerts. So this particular client that I have off the Omni here, this one's at about 900 meters. So it's not working on 60 gigahertz just due to the distance off of the Omni. So it's alerting me that the 60 gigahertz is not connected, but the 5 gigahertz is keeping that client device up. So, and then we've got obviously the map that you saw on the last page. Dashboard. So. So, anyways, multiple. You can view in and help kind of visualize your network as it's set up as well. With the map, you have a history of all the activity. So, configuration changes. You can go through and see wireless client count at 1 day, 1 week, 1 month, 1 year. You can see data. Essentially, everything's kind of everything's stored and monitored for you throughout the history.
That's pretty neat.
On top of that, we do work with several companies to offer you some Wi-Fi options on top of this. So, Sociify, Cloud4We give you tools you can add onto the Wi-Fi, basically for kind of presence analytics or kind of marketing follow-up tools. So, if a customer comes into a store and wants to log in, they have to connect with their Facebook, and then that customer has access to Wi-Fi, but then the business has access to their Facebook information to kind of follow up with marketing, sales, whatever it may be in the future. We offer content filtering, so kind of lightweight DNS-based content filtering for families, and then kind of more heavily based through providers like Family Zone. And then for Slack users, which for me is I'm on Slack 24/7, so I can get alerts for all of my devices on Slack kind of as they're happening. So it makes it very helpful. We've got some cameras through our sister company SMC that gives you basically a wireless ISP alternative to Nest. So if your customers are going to install Nest cameras, they're going to eat up all your bandwidth, and you're not going to make any money off of that. You can go through and sell your customers SMC, which gives them the same service, but you can actually make a little bit of revenue off of that. So, anyways, the cloud is there, very powerful. Each site can be given unique logins. So, whether it be a technician or the customer themselves, you can give them login to one site and not the entire cloud. If you ever have to get rid of a technician for any reason, you can cut their access on the cloud, and you don't have to go through and change every single device's local logins to, if you're worried about them, going in and trying to hurt your network ever in the future.
Yeah, thank you for showing us this. That's a pretty powerful cloud toy. Helpful.
Awesome.
So where can we find the product to buy?
So through our website, you can go where to buy. We've got distribution across the U.S. and worldwide, and everything should be in stock and available. So I'm not going to list any distributors. I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings listing somebody first and last, but through our
website.
Yep.
Dennis, are there any further questions from the audience?
No, sir. everything looks really good.
Well, Chad, do you think? I mean, this is a very interesting product line that you guys have created, and I will probably be trying it out here shortly. But I'm glad that you came on the show. I'm interested in the product.
No, we appreciate the exposure that you guys have brought to it, and happy to share. And reach out. You can reach out to me on Facebook. I'm happy to help. Everybody look at how am I going to use 60 gigahertz. These are my towers. This is my budget. We're very good at looking at how do I use this and how do we make it real in your network. So reach out. Support at Ignitenet. Reach out to me on Facebook. Whatever you want to do, we're here to help.
And you mentioned a tool that is that embedded in this, what I'm looking at, the tool for planning your 60 gig?
Yeah, that good question. So right here is what we call link path. So we can look at these 35 centimeter dishes. So you choose your channel. I'll start with channel 4, and then I'll show you the difference in the distances with the different channels. Here in Nebraska, I'm on range zone K, and we'll start with 5.9's reliability. So the first thing it's going to do is it's going to show you. So for 3 gigabit per second, which is the max aggregate throughput for the ML 2.5. With rain, your maximum distance is going to be 645 meters. And if you are not worried about keeping 1 or 3 gigabit, but you want to keep 1 gigabit per second, like 890 meters is going to be your maximum distance on a point-to-point network at 5.9's reliability. If we want to back this down to 3.9's, that distance jumps up to 1.9 kilometers. So it's just like just over a mile.
Yeah, something like that.
Yep, 1.6 is a mile, so 1.1, 1.2 miles. And then obviously with your different channels, it's going to vary quite a bit too. So the same number here, if you jump to channel 2, it goes to 1.2 kilometers as your maximum distance. And again, everything there is the oxygen loss. So channel 2 is losing 6 more dB per kilometer of oxygen.
How would a person know their range zone? Is that what the question mark would help you with?
Yeah. So it's a little bit difficult to get in. So if you're right on the edge, I would generally just lean towards whatever the worst case is as you're building it. But you can certainly look at both deployments. So, for instance, I think here, kind of where my family is in Colorado, they're like kind of right on the border between Zone K and Zone E. So I would design it towards Zone K.
Okay.
And then the other part of the tool is, so if you know what your link is going to be, so let's say you're going to do a 1,200 meter link, and you're going to use channel 4. You can give this to your installers to know, your target RSSI that you need to get is 45 dB.
That's powerful.
Well, that just kind of goes back to good planning.
Yeah.
I mean, I couldn't tell you how many times I've had a customer call us up and say, hey, we're not getting a connection or we're not getting a good signal or good throughput. And I go, well, what should you be receiving? And they go, well, I don't know. Well, why don't you know? I mean, you know where you're at. You know where your tower is at. I mean, it should be easy to calculate.
It's all mathematics.
What you should be expecting. And if you're not getting that, then chances are you haven't aimed it correctly, or you're off a side lobe and you have still not aimed it correctly. And it does happen. And with 60 gigahertz, not going very far, as well as having very directional antennas in most cases, it's a big thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing I didn't get into talking about it on the call, but as we look at aiming and how to speed up your install times, We do make the several tools to kind of help make it a little bit easier. Of course, I need a good picture of it.
I saw your gun scope. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, there it is. So we make the alignment scope, which can screw right on top of the radio, and it gives you a visual tool to do your alignment. And it's reusable. I believe it's $100 for the scope. So anybody who's having any install issues, first question is, did you use the scope?
Yeah.
And it'll make your life a lot easier. In fact, a lot of people are asking us to adapt it to where they can fit it to their 5 gigahertz products.
Yeah. We did that with some Ubiquiti 24 gigahertz stuff, gun scope on the side. Definitely a good tool to have.
Yeah, especially so the 35 centimeter has a 1 degree beam, so any help you can get getting that beam aligned, is greatly needed.
Yep. Well, Chad, you got anything more for us? A really helpful show and interesting product line.
I don't think so. Just reach out and.
How can people reach out to you?
So my email address is chad@ignitenet.com. So feel free to reach out that way. And then if you can't get me, you should be able to. But if I'm not there, support at ignitenet.com.
Okay. Dennis, any further questions on the chat? Are we done?
That we are done.
Well, cool. Well, thank you again, Chad, for showing up on the show and participating. Dennis, you want to wrap us up?
Yep, not a problem.
Thank you for listening to ISP Radio. We hope you've gained new
So,
insights
how does the
and
internet
additional
work?
wisdom in our industry.
Most of us
as well
know
as
how
your
to
business.
use the internet.
Please remember to visit our show sponsors via the links on ispradio.com. If you're interested in becoming a show sponsor, contact us at sales@ispradio.com. Now go out there and push those packets as fast as you can. Good luck and Godspeed.